How's everybody doing today? This is Ron at Sandcar Services, and today's tech talk tip that I'm going to give you is on clutch master cylinders. So I did a post a little while back talking about having a really super hard stiff clutch, and if you take any of the mechanical failures out of the equation and it comes back to the hydraulics, it's almost always the fact that whoever put the clutch system in put it in with a see if I can zoom in. See that? That's a 3/4 master cylinder. So I'm going to be putting in this brand new Jamar X. Thanks to Dave up at CarTech for supplying me this. I install quite a few of these every year. But the tech tip that I want to give you is, and they don't really tell you this when you buy it. I'm not even sure if they know, but you can't get a nut behind this flange. You see how close it is to the actual, that's the flange right there that's got that little set screw in it. See how there's a very small gap between it and the back of the actual housing? Well, if you look at the CNC, which is pretty much, the CNC is what almost everybody ran back in the day. And if you look right there, it's pretty nasty looking bolt, but you see how the bolt goes through it and then has a nut on it with a washer? That's what I wanted to give you the tech tip about. If you are going to be replacing your brake masters or your clutch master cylinders and you put these Jamars in, and the Jamars are great, there's nothing wrong with them, but you cannot use the nut and bolt from the CNC. It won't work. And in some cases they run fine thread on the bolts depending on who put it together. So the thread pitch, for those of you that are interested, is 5/16 18. So it's a 5/16 bolt, 18 pitch. I like to use the Allen style bolts, but you know, you can use regular hex head bolts if you want. But what's going to happen is, just so that, because I may not have brought this to anybody's attention in this video, if you have a 3/4 master cylinder and you have a really hard clutch to push down, I mean really hard, like you can't skip leg day at the gym because it's that hard, and there's nothing wrong with your throwout assembly in the back, and your slave cylinder. This car's had 2 slave cylinders put in it within the last year, and just driving it into the shop, I about blew my muscle out of my legs. So I'm gonna do like I did on the last customer's car, drop a 5/8 master cylinder in here, and makes it as easy as it can get. I think 5/8 is the smallest master cylinder you can get from Jamar for a brake or clutch. But you got to remember that you're gonna de-stroke your clutch. So most sand rails are overstroked, which means, let's explain it this way. If you look at the throttle, you'll notice right here on the throttle that there's a positive stop bolt. So you can actually set where the throttle stops so it doesn't overthrow at the back. On clutch assemblies, you don't get that, right? So you can just push the clutch until the rod deadheads inside the chamber, and you don't necessarily want to do that. But if you can get the clutch to release when you're pushing down on a clutch, let me put it to you this way: when you're pushing down on the clutch pedal, it's stiff, and then right past the halfway point, it should actually start getting easier. About 3/8 of an inch to a half an inch into that easy push is where you should stop pushing in on your clutch, if that makes sense. Anything past that point, and you actually do the exact opposite and you start spinning your input shaft again, because you end up putting load on the clutch assembly again through the fingers on the pressure plate. And then what that does is it wears out your throwout bearing. So if you're going through throwout bearings quite often, one, it could be really, China throwout bearings. The other thing it could be is that you're putting too much pressure on your clutch. The 5/8 will not throw the clutch as far in the back as a 3/4, but since most sand rails, like I said, don't have a positive stop, they're overstroking anyway. And the 5/8 for the most part, I haven't had a sand rail that it hasn't worked on yet, but for the most part, it's pretty much fixed the problem for everybody. So if anybody else has any tidbits that they'd like to chime in on that, that'd be perfectly fine. But this is Ron with Sand Car Services, and just finishing up on Johnny's car. And thanks for watching. I'll keep my tech tips coming. Thanks, guys. See you out in the dunes.